Hi everyone, welcome back to MAT052. We're going to continue along with our equations of lines practice, and we're going to do some interpreting, some more in-depth looking at lines and their equations and just how to analyze them. So we've talked about the slope of a line. Here are some different things that you can kind of consider. And this kind of goes over to regression. So when we do linear regression, are you doing linear regression? In class, we're going to talk about different things, right? So here, if I've got going from, from negative to positive, just like I read in a book, left to right. Okay, let's just do it that way. Here's negative numbers out here, positive numbers out here. If I go left to right, if I'm going up, this is a positive slope, okay? Positive slopes means that m is greater than 0. The greater than 0 are the positive numbers, less than 0s are the negative numbers. If I go the very same thing, if I go down, so if I'm going left to right, if I'm going this way, and if I go down, this is a negative slope. And then sometimes we have this thing called a zero slope. A zero slope, so here m would be less than 0, negative numbers. -1, -3, that's kind of negative. Here would be +2, +7, things like that. So a zero slope means that m is equal to 0, okay? m is equal to 0 says that as I go to left to right, it has no bearing on what my y value. My y value is just a constant. Okay, now if we did this from regression on a scatter plot, this may be going up, kind of like something, just different stuff over here. It's not depending on what x is to make a difference in our y value. Okay. So if we've got an equation over here on my left side, y is equal to -1/3 x plus 5. It's just asking me, kind of read off what this thing is all about. Can you analyze it? And that would be y is equal to -1/3 x plus 5. I just think about this as mx plus b. Here is my m value, and that is my intercept. So when x is equal to 0, that's all that's left. X is equal to 0, this goes away, so your y is equal to 5. Now a negative number says I'm decreasing. As I go over 3 this time, I only go down 1 here. So this is a very slow slope like that, okay? And that's what y is equal to -1/3 x plus 5 would look like. This point with 5 is 0, 5. Find the slope of the line with the equation 6x minus 2y is equal to 14. Now this is just a different form of a straight line. ax plus by is equal to c is a different version, and I can always put this into the mx plus b version. I just solve for y, so I would get something like by. If I subtract off ax from both sides, I get c minus ax. And then divide by b. That's kind of the standard algebra way of solving for a value. C minus ax over b, and this is minus a over bx plus c over b. And this again is my m, this is my b. So that's kind of the form going from here to here. And I can work this backwards to take this starting and get it back over in that direction. So they're both kind of equivalent. They both tell you the same thing. So here's what they're doing here, is they're going through this process of saying, put that into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to start out with 6x minus 2y is equal to 14. And I want to put that into y is equal to mx plus b slope-intercept form. So again, I want to solve for y, so I want to get everything else over on the other side. So I'm going to subtract off my minus 6x from both sides. Here's my equals. So that goes out, that's 0. So minus 2y is equal to 14 minus 6x. And here I'm still focusing on my y. To get rid of multiplication, I don't add, I divide. And then this divides into each piece. So negative 6 divided by negative 2x, that would be just 3x. And the 14 divided by negative 2 is minus 7. Okay, so that is the form. This is my slope equal 3, and my y-intercept is just negative 7. So here, this picture is a nice picture of the y-intercept, what that really means. So if this line goes all the way through, so you can have negative numbers and positive numbers. Where x is equal to 0, that's the y-intercept. Where it cuts the y-axis is the y-axis. Here's the x-axis. Over here is the x-intercept where it would cross there. Okay, but this is just the b, and that's what that is, that value. So identify the slope and y-intercept. We've done this before. There's the slope, 2, and when x is equal to 0, all you're left with is y is equal to 1. Slope 2, and here's the point if you graphed it, would be the 0, x is 0, y is my 1. Okay, so here's just a different interpretation, and here I kind of drew this picture, and I've kind of already introduced this. So let x1, y1, and x2, y2 be any 2 points on a line. The slope is determined by dividing the change in the y values, also called the rise. How much have I gone up when I go so far in the x direction, or the run? So if I'm moving from x2, so this point P1 to P2, I've gone a distance of x2 minus x1, but now I've gone up the hill by y2 minus y1. And so here's some more of what we did in the last worksheet. I'm given 2 points. Do the very same thing. I want to do my m, my slope, y2 minus y1. And I would pick, if you just kind of want to visualize this, I've got 2 points. Here's my x, here's my y. I've got 2 points. 2, 0, I'll look for the furthest on the x, so the 2 is the smallest. So here would be basically 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 0 is where I'm starting at. So here is 2, 0 if I graphed it. And then over at 5, 3, 4, 5, 4. So I go over 5, up 4. That's about that point right there. 5, 4. And then if I kind of drew a straight line through here the best I can, that's not very straight. I stretched out too far. That would go through there. Okay. So this would be the slope. So if I went from here, I would go to here, and I would change it over. So let me put that right there. My y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, that's my slope. Here's my p1, here's my p2, x1, y1, x2, y2. So 4 minus 0, that's my y1, there's my y2. x2, which is 5, minus 2 is my x1. 4/3. So that would be my slope. And then I could, this is just the slope, but then I could use my y is equal to mx plus b. Y is equal to 4/3 x plus b. And I would use either one of these points. This would be a good one to use. My P1 with 2, 0. 0 is my y, is equal to 4/3 times 2 plus b. So that's 8/3. 8/3 plus what? B is equal to 0. B is equal to minus 8/3. And then I would write my equation. Like that. Here again is a picture. You've gone up 4 units when you went over by 3 units. 3 units over, 4 units up, and that's my slope. I'm always multiplying this by 6. So if I've really gone over 3, so I'll multiply this times 3. So if I multiply 4/3 times 3, I've gone up 4. That's basically every time I go over 3, if I multiply this another 3, which would be 6, that would be 2 times 4 is be up by 8. There's the interpretation I've got. Find and interpret the slope of the line between -3,6 and 1, -2. Here would be further to the left, P1, -3,6, and then P2. Here would be my 2 points. P1 I'd label. P2 I'd label here, X1, Y1 with P1, X2, Y2 with P. And here I went over how far from 1 minus and minus 3. I went over 4 units, and I went down 6, 7, 8 units. But here, I can pick any point. This is where they just said, okay, I went over 1 unit. How far did I go down? -2. But this is all going to be the very same thing if I went down more. Here would be, I went over 3. I went down 6, minus 6. So all of them, that's going to give you these very same slopes. So here, once I'm given this, it would be, well, here, could you graph these things? If I'm given a regression line, that's basically what this is. This is what the regression line, the trend line will look like. And it would say, find, graph that line. So graph y is equal to minus 5/4 x minus 3. And this is just a rough graph. We could go to Desmos to really look at this. Kind of looks a little shifted. There you go. And basically what you would want to do, you always want to start with your y-intercept, because this is easy to calculate. X is 0, what's my y? Well, if x is 0, this is just 0 right here. 0 times anything is 0, and that gives you the -3, so that's going to be the positive. So I had it drawn down here, so I'm just going to go down here. -1, -2, -3, 0, -3. Okay. And now I could pick up anything and just do a 1 here and calculate. I could also find this point to say, well, when is my y equal to 0? What point x? I'm going down, so this has got to be a negative number. So my slope is negative, so it's got to be down here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it over here. What point would that be? What x? For y is equal to 0. And I would do the same thing I did a while ago when I was doing b. So I set this equal to 0 minus 5/4 x minus 3. And then I'd solve for x plus 3. 3 is equal to minus 5/4 x. And now I would just multiply by 4 to get rid of this and divide by, let's say, -5 here. But I'm going to go -4/5. Multiply -4/5 over here. So -4, all of that goes out, and my x, I'm bringing that here, is minus 12/5. So that's about -2 and 2/5. So -1, -2, so somewhere along in there. There's a -2, so 2/5. Somewhere over in here, and I would just draw my line right down there. what did I do? Oh, I said negative 5/4. That was 5/4. That's okay. Here would be the 5/4. You would do the very same thing, 0, -3, and then that would be 5/4 with a positive slope. So that would be a different example. Okay, and then we looked at applications last time. The cost of a rental car is $25 per day plus a flat fee of $40. If the car is rented for X days, then the total cost of the rental may be expressed as Y. That's the total cost, 25 per day times X number of days plus the 40 flat fee, and interpret the slope. So the slope is just the 25. That means for every 1 day, I've gone up an extra $25 on my rental fee. Okay, so here's some practice problems for you to go through. It's just to identify the slope and the intercept, gives you some practice. You should be able to do that pretty good, pretty quick. And here's what we were doing before. P1, P2, Y2, X2, Y1, X1, and then do the slope and interpret that. Okay, so go through those and turn those in. And that should help you, hopefully, when you're doing regression lines and you're understanding that, that helps you interpret the model and evaluating the model at certain points, understanding what, the y-intercept, that's where you're starting with x equal to 0. And hopefully that'll help you. So we'll see you next time. Hope you have a good week and a good Thanksgiving this time.